Hey. Okay, I have to find the video that I wanted to show. Hold on one second. I had it up here. I don't know what happened. Wait.
Family member that is an alcoholic.
All right, here we go. Hey, cool gamer. Ready? Here we go.
Or an addict, and it's causing you a great deal of pain, and you're wondering, how do I support them without enabling them? Here are my suggestions. It is next to impossible to help an addicted person unless they want to be helped. That's a real fact. Another real fact is it's very difficult to help a person when you're very close to them. Say if one of my kids became a drug addict or one of my immediate family, it would be hard for me to be the primary person helping them. Even in my marriage, like me and my wife aren't the dominant mentor of one another. Sometimes I say to my wife, you've got to talk to someone else about that because I'm biased. I won't give you good advice. Same for me and her, vice versa. So I feel like with addicts though, like I know loads of them. What I do is I go, this is what I know about not taking drugs. You have to admit there's a problem and that it's destroying you. You have to believe it's possible to stop and that there is another way of being. You have to accept help and do things differently. Now, if they won't do those things, then I kind of go, all right then, well, there you go. Now, that's very difficult when it's someone that you really, really love. If it's your teenage child who you adore or your parent or whatever. But that's the fact, in my opinion. The whole chain people to a radiator, lock them in a room, drive them to a rehab thing, I think it's limited returns. So for complete disclosure, I did have quite an interventionist beginning to my journey in recovery. People did go, you are going into rehab. The man that was my manager at the time was very influential, and the man that ran that rehab at the time, very influential. They really held some space, to use a therapeutic term for me there. But in the end, it's me who one day at a time did not use drugs because that was suggested. It's me who surrendered. I don't mean me in an egoic way because whatever energy or power I found within me was granted to me by things that I can't begin to understand. But what I'm saying is, without my willingness, there's no way I could get clean. It's not my parents' fault that I took drugs, and nor is it your fault if your children take drugs, far less if it's one of your parents. So what you say to them, this is one of my phrases, I will help you to change, but I will not help you to stay the same. If you want help staying the same, i.e. give me some money, no chance. If you want help changing, I will help you to change, but you have proven that you are not the right person to come up with those ideas, because look at the ideas you come up with. So we're going to be getting those ideas elsewhere. Then you don't try and be in the nomenclature of 12-step recovery, their higher power. You find someone else. If it's a person who's got a problem with drugs, find someone who doesn't take drugs. If it's a person if you're a person that you're concerned about drinks too much, find someone who's stopped drinking too much. Or whatever the problem is, find someone who stopped doing it and say, can you help this person, my dependent, my whatever it is? They'll do it because they have to, because essentially addiction is the call. The destruction through addiction is the call that the material world is never going to work for you ever again. It's over. You have to find spiritual solutions. You can find a measure of happiness with a material life. But I mean to say, even if I don't mean religious, I mean sort of spiritual, as in your inner life must be well regarded, your self-care must be monitored, the things that you value must be scrutinized, and help must be sought, a path must be found and then walked. But the fact is that enabling, as the word suggests, means that you make them able to continue on with their drug use. So sometimes the very definition of tough love is required. Like, listen, I can't communicate with you. You're not getting no more money out of me. No, you can't stay at this house unless you commit to change. I will help you to change, but I will not help you to stay the same. That's what I've learned from it, from being around them. But they have to become teachable. And if they're not teachable, they will carry on that path, and you have to let them, because you are not God. So, and that's a horrible thing to accept, not being God. I'm still struggling with it. But for now, I've got this wonderful Technicolor dream shawl, and that's, it's enough for Joseph, and it's enough for me. Hello, I'm doing these new videos more frequently now. Please hit the notification button at the end of this video, because then you'll get a little bell when they're...
Hello, I'm back. So there are two people in my life very close to me whom I love and happen to be addicts. And one is up here right now. Carlos, are you here? Unmute yourself.
Don't tell me what to do.
Hey, this is my cousin Carlos. He is an addict. And Carlos, what did I tell you before I started bringing you to the methadone clinic and helping you guys? I said, just like the video said, I will help you, but only if you try to help yourself.
Oh, I thought you were referring to when you said dumbass. But yes, that's what you said. Basically, that you were willing to help us, but you were not willing to do the work for us.
Yep. I had to do it alone. I did it alone, and I know how hard it is. And fortunately, I wasn't an addict as long as you guys are. So you know that I was able to keep it in my mind that I don't want it. And you know that because you do it, that, I have no desire to do it because it just, I don't know. So let's talk about you.
You kind of get an advertisement for the nasty side of it every day, huh?
Yes. So can you tell our viewers when you started doing drugs, how old you were and what was it, and how did you get started?
Well, I didn't realize until actually, probably the past year that I haven't really been sober since I was about 14, 15, somewhere in there.
And you are about to be what?
Be 36 at the end of the year.
Okay.
So,
And how did you get started?
I guess technically, how did I get started? I guess I sprained my ankle playing soccer in high school, and the doctors gave me these really awesome pain pills. And once my ankle stopped hurting, but of course my parents decided that they were going to dole them out to me so that I didn't do anything stupid like get addicted. And so I, of course, being obstinate, hoarded them. Once it stopped hurting, I just stopped taking them and saved them all up, and then took them all at once. And holy hell, my eyes were opened. I just found my new best friend.
Which was pills.
Yep. Opiates.
And how long were you on pills for?
Oh, shoot. I mean, I did it off and on, but most days for, till I was about the age of 23, so about 8 years. I got sober for a few months here and there a couple times, but that was pretty much it. And then
college on drugs?
Yeah, I went to ASU, and I went there for 6 years. But they say leaving ASU in 4 years is like leaving a house party at 11. You miss out on most of the beer and half the women. Still graduated with my bachelor's in psychology and in marketing, and the whole time I was high. Although I did do a lot more drinking at that time.
And tell me about the work that you were able to do while you were still. Oh, let me ask you this. When did you start doing heroin?
Well, that was kind of a natural progression. Once the prescription pain pills, the prescription isn't enough to last you, then you start buying the prescription on the street. And once that gets too expensive, then you go for something cheaper. And you could basically, for the price of getting high once on the prescription meds, you could get high all day. And that sounded like a pretty good trade. So one of my
And you,
employees actually offered it to me, and then I tried it and it took off. But that was what, my mid 20s. Up until then, I wasn't actually. Up until then, I was doing just prescription meds primarily. But my actually my mother gave me a bunch of one of her friends had cancer, and she when she passed away, my mother was given probably a couple thousand fentanyl patches, and so she gave me like 3/4 of them probably, and so for years I was just chewing on and then eventually injecting the gel from the patches.
you were
Uh,
chewing on the patches?
yeah, you kind of chew it like dip, like tobacco, and it rocks your world.
Please don't do none of this. Nobody. Hold on one second.
Yeah, don't, because the fact that I'm alive is a statistical anomaly.
Carlos, I was watching somewhere else that they were talking about people that do fentanyl. Remember how I was talking about your ankles?
Yeah, they swell.
They're very swollen. And someone told me that, hold on one second, let me get this on. Someone told me that when you do fentanyl, that's what happens to your lower extremities. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, it does. Well, it makes you retain water. Period. The drug does, right? But then on top of that, the um, the fact that you're usually balancing it out with speed means that you're staying awake for days at a time, and you're always on your feet. And standing on your feet for long periods of time, you don't get the circulation that you need when you lay down and stuff, and so your feet will swell from that as well.
So how long have you been doing speed and down and opiates?
Well, I guess it only took a year or two for me to realize that if I took the opiates and then snorted my Adderall, um, it was a whole different mixture. And so I guess I was technically doing that after a year or two when I was in high school. I just didn't realize that I didn't realize what I was doing, to be honest. I thought it was okay because they were prescribed meds and I was prescribed them by the doctor. And I mean, they say that actually before the age of 18, most people can kick a heroin habit with little to no problem. It's after the age of 18 that the success rate drops down to something like 20%. 80, I think it's 86% uh, relapse, something like that.
How many times have you been in jail?
How many times have I been in jail? I got to take my shoes off to count. But mostly, I would say, mostly for overnights and a few days. Um, as far as stints over, say, a couple of days, only one, two, three, or four, about 4 times. I just finished up doing a year. Um, 2 years ago I got out? No, almost 3 now.
When did you
And
after I left Arizona last time?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I got out. I think it'll be 3 years. It was 3 years in August, I believe.
And what were
August
they for?
27th. Yeah. What?
What were they for?
Um,
Shoplifting.
possession of paraphernalia, and prohibited possessor. So I had a felon with a gun. I
And
think
you're
that was
currently
pretty much
going through
it.
that one right now, right?
I am under indictment, yes, right now for a prohibited possessor charge, um, because my wife had a gun in the car that we were living in, and the cops decided to charge me with it. So, but not her, thank God, even though she told them it was hers.
So tell my viewers please the job that you had when and then you lost when they found out that you were doing drugs, but you were like the top um person in your territory. Is it even while you were still doing drugs, correct?
um, well, actually, it's kind of that's happened several times. Um,
Let's talk about the best one that you had.
well, I mean, it was kind of a chain reaction. I had my first sales job while I was at ASU, and I found out that basically I enjoyed sitting in telemarketing on the phone is mind numbing, and it grinds your soul away. So I found that if I was high, I didn't mind that so much. But then I started looking at it and realizing that my numbers were better when I was high because I was nice and friendly and easygoing and having fun, and so I was earning more money. And now I had to make sure that I was earning enough more money that it was cost effective, which it wasn't always. But it ended up being to where I helped ASU open up their alumni association and annual fund, and raise scholarship funds. And when the board saw how much commission I was making, they changed the pay structure, so I had to leave. Um, which made me think that I could function as an addict in the world, and no one could tell me otherwise. Well, fast forward 5 sales jobs later that I've been in and out of, in and out of, in and out of, and I finally get into the advertising game, and I'm selling the hell out of it. I'm making $120,000 a year before the age of 30, and I'm flying all over the country with an expense account. Um,
Remember that.
I'm managing people that are severely older than me and have put far more time into their careers than me. Um, and the owner of the company, loves me. Well, loves to hate me sometimes, but that was kind of a jerk. So it was kind of an open secret. I found out eventually. I thought I was smooth. I thought nobody knew a thing. But apparently, I was holding meetings and sales trainings, and I was nodding off mid sentence, and they noticed that. Um, I don't know. I still say that it didn't happen, but a lot of people have told me it did. Um, so I eventually, my quote unquote best friend at the time when he when he left some cocaine in the bathroom at the work office, and I tipped him off that the managers knew. He was afraid I was going to tell on him, so he decided to tell them that I was using, and now it was on paperwork. So they suspended me, but before the paperwork could go through to where they could push to fire me, I went to the competition and I negotiated a promotion and a raise from for them. So I went to go work for their competition, making more with a better title and more benefits. And that went on for several more years. And it was great. I mean, the only problem with that was I was then working for two addicts. So it was a little rough.
And it was the same type of job you was doing before?
It was literally the same job. They were two former employees of this guy that went off and started their own business of the same thing, basically. And so it was kind of interesting because I went from working for an 85-year-old man that obviously didn't travel around with me to working with some younger guys in their late 40s, mid 40s, and they would travel with me half the time, and we could expense drugs and dancers and escorts and pretty much anything we wanted. And they didn't care. It was part of, I mean, part of how we rolled. We'd walk into a strip club and drop $6,000 in company money in an hour or two, and they'd be happy to do it because I'd made them $250,000 that day, or damn close to $1 million that day, and it was just effective for them. But them kind of turning a blind eye and condoning it, of course, resulted in me getting worse. And so I was I was shooting up probably during the workday, probably about 4 a day. And
Say that again, you cut out.
Point where I was shooting up probably 4 to 6 times a day. Just during my workday. Just during my workday. That's actually the whole day.
Are you walking around?
2 a.m. No, I'm in my hovel.
So what
but I
were
can
you
move the phone for better service.
What were you making a year when you lost your last job, and basically did you become homeless when you lost that job?
Last year, not right away. I had a lot of savings. I had an investment portfolio. I had a 401k. I had savings, and I had assets. So right away. No, I'm not clean now. Oh no, you're talking about her husband. Oh,
I know.
and so, and so. Oh God, what was the question? What a typical druggy question. What was your question?
I was talking about how long after you lost your job did you become homeless, and when you lost your job, how much were you making a year?
Yeah, so I was making just under like 130 grand a year. I was averaging $52 an hour, and I pissed away most of the day in the bathroom, getting high. Anyway, but when I started to stop hiding it as much because I felt like they were condoning it and I could get away with it. Eventually, they took issue with the disrespect that was implied with it. is what it came down to. And when I asked for a $5,000 raise, and I had made them $5 million the year before, and they didn't want to give it. That was the beginning of the end. Basically, within a week, some feelings had been hurt, and we decided to. And it wasn't mine. I didn't have any. And we decided to part our ways. But they called and asked me to come back, but I knew I couldn't go back until I was sober, because it would just happen again.
How long ago was
that? That was January 26th of 19. So
okay? And now what is a normal day for you like now?
now
Mm-hmm.
now I'm living in your backyard in your shed with my lovely wife, and as of late, I've had to resort to selling drugs. So I spend the day.
Not out of my backyard. Please
No,
reiterate that you do not do
yes,
it here. You go elsewhere.
identify. No, I have a nice little corner and gas station that I've staked out my claim on, um, but must share. And now I spend the day not only servicing my habit, but everyone else's.
And how do you get your money besides selling drugs? To go buy.
Allegedly, I have been accused of shoplifting, but I will not confirm or deny that. But hypothetically, if I were to, yeah, I would totally shoplift. I hate stealing. I hate thieves. And I don't, but I know that
You're cutting out.
stealing. I know that it's all still a rationalization, saying that I don't steal from people. I only steal from companies, so it's not as bad. But I do.
Do you and Rachel have a support system to help you get sober? What is your support
That's
system to
dicey.
help you get sober?
I mean, her parents are abusive, and downright nasty sometimes. But they try and be supportive. They just don't have any clue how to be, and can't see past themselves. My family's tried to address my addiction problems, but they're busy dealing with their own and being in denial, and all that comes along with that. So it makes it hard to. But they're there for me when I need them, when it counts. They finally ultimately kicked me out of their house. But after probably my 30th strike, they were more flexible than they needed to be. And you guys took us in. We lived in our car for 2.5 years, or 2 years about, and our car finally broke down, like almost across the street from your house. And you've been stuck with us ever since. We've.
And what made you decide that you wanted to get sober this time for 100% real?
Well, CPS took our daughter and put her with her grandparents, who again are abusive, neglectful a-holes. And so we don't really have a choice. It's not fun anymore, and everything that's important is at stake. So we we got on methadone and been trying to use that method to get off. Um, but it's definitely easier said than done. And
Since you've been, how long have you been going to the methadone clinic? This time
it was
has
three
it been
months last week.
3 months?
It was 3 months last week. Yeah.
God, every single day. That means 90 days, almost in a row. I have brought y'all to the clinic almost.
Yeah. Well, no, because Sundays we don't go.
Right.
So we only go
Okay.
6 days a week. Yes. But you're pretty close. I'm saying with the couple car issues that we've had and appointments and such, probably 75 out of the last 90 days you had to take us with no
So
AC in
I have
Arizona
to.
and
I
waiting in the
really
sun.
would tip you to help you. Um, so how does the methadone clinic work for anyone who might be interested in going to a methadone clinic that might be addicted to something? Um, you do see the doctor once
Well,
a week, once every 2 weeks there at the clinic.
for the first you see him every 2 weeks, and then after that,
You're cutting out.
but you see him every 2 weeks at first for the first 3 months, and then after that it's once a month.
And
But a lot of
after
people, what's up?
after you go, like each time you go see the doctor, they increase your dose until you get to where what until until
Well, a
you're
lot of people are afraid of methadone because they think that they're just trading one addiction for another. And on some levels you kind of are. You can't deny that. I mean, you're trading one substance for another. Sure, there's a physical dependency, yeah. But the cool thing about methadone is it doesn't work like all the other opiates. Um, First of all, if you have any opiate tolerance at all, you don't really get high off of it. So the upside is kind of gone from it, so it's not as easily abused. Trust me, I have tried in the past. Um, but it also has an effect. Well, the best description I've gotten of it is when your brain gets used to all the dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine that you're dumping into your skull with drugs, and then all of a sudden you stop, your brain kind of starts reacting like it's on fire. Just a giant oh shit. And so methadone hits those same receptors and kind of calms it down and makes it so that and that's the part that is the drive, the desire, or the craving, as they call it, um, that you guys or have heard of, I'm sure, or that you're experiencing. So you don't get the craving as much. Plus, it keeps you from getting sick. Now, that's the difference, and that people with don't necessarily get when they've gotten sober off of methamphetamines or cocaine or marijuana. When you stop doing meth, you basically take a nap for a few days and start eating again. And yes, some terrible depression. I will give you all that. But with opiates, you have all that along with crippling anxiety and the feeling like your bones are trying to rip out of your body. Um, the most severe aches, runny noses, nausea, absolutely explosive diarrhea, um, runny noses, your eyes start tearing up and crying. Um, Basically, it is kind of like the world's worst flu times 100. And it's one of only a couple of different drugs that you can actually die from um, detoxing from, and it feels like it. So it's just a different animal, and it's something that it can also be largely psychological. Um, and if you ignore the physical side of it or the psychological side of it, um, oftentimes you won't make it through. You'll end up relapsing. So it's kind of important to treat both sides of the coin on that one.
So before, when you started going to the methadone clinic, can you tell us how much you were using versus how much you're using now, so that people can see the progress that you and Rachel have made? And there's friends in the chat that are saying congratulations on being at the clinic for 90 days.
Thank you guys. Getting those attaboys and those congratulations and those, recognizing that is absolutely more important than you guys could ever imagine. The smallest pat on your back can be enough to keep you going through the next craving. Um, and it gets its claws in your soul so deep that it's hard to.
I know I try as often as I can when you guys are doing good, to let you know how proud I am of you for doing what you're doing, because you have nobody there for you but us, and it's hard to watch someone you love not have anybody there, and you're the only one there. So we're gonna get this one day at a time, right, Carlos?
Yes, ma'am. But and of course, you guys have been so amazing and so understanding with us that I mean, I honestly don't know if either of us would be alive today if it weren't for you guys, because things are getting pretty nasty there for a minute. Pretty nasty. Uh, but that's all you can do is take it one day at a time and try and do it. I mean, when we first started. Uh, well, when we first broke down on your front lawn, basically, uh, we were doing about 25 to 30 pills each a day.
Fentanyl pills.
Yes, fentanyl pills.
And
So that's about 125 to $150 a day habit each.
$300 a day
Yeah.
with no job?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
With no job?
Yeah. Well, no, I called it work when I would go to stores to go boosting. Um,
Oh, but it was all allegedly. Now you're admitting to it. I see.
I planned to go boosting, but I never actually did it. Thank you. Um, but yeah, I mean, I literally, like I said, I would be like, I gotta get to work if I was running late on my schedule because I had to treat it like a job. Um, and so, and then you only get paid half the value as well. So I'd have to theoretically steal twice as much stuff to get it. So $600 a day I had to get in order to keep Rachel and I from choking each other.
I had no idea it was that much.
Yeah.
And Des33 says, I am so proud of you. I know it's hard. You can do it. I believe in you. Take it slow. So
Thanks.
now,
Actually, I love the take it slow part. People don't recognize that it's a slow process and they want you to just hurry up and get sober because it seems simple. So thank you for that.
and also you are going to be doing a outpatient program of some sort. What's that about?
Yeah, I basically right now I'm working on getting us into an IOP program, intensive outpatient. Basically, it's like going to rehab only at home. You got to do like 3 to 5 hours a day, uh, 3 to 4 days a week, something like that. So it's a lot of time, and it's very intensive, and it's set up a lot like where you'd go to classes. Like if you were in rehab, you go to classes throughout the day and meeting times and stuff like that. Only in between, you can be with your family and friends, and you can go to work and stuff like that. Um, you just also have to be aware that you can also go meet your dealer, and you got to make sure that that's not where you're going.
So don't forget that they're calling you tomorrow for the second part of your interview for that.
Yes.
Don't forget.
Yes.
Um, so what is your usage now since you've been going to
Now,
the clinic 3 months?
we've gotten down to, depending on a lot on stress, to be honest, and how much sleep we're getting. Um, Anywhere from 7 to 15, I guess, a day. They say the magic number is about 10 fentanyl pills a day. Once you can get it down to 10 or less, you statistically have a greater success likelihood.
So you've gone down 10 pills in 3 months a day each. About.
I guess about 10 or 15 pills. Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to tell anybody that you haven't said yet that might help people who are addicted or who have family members who have people that are addicted? Because I know it's hard on y'all and it's hard on us too, because it's really hard to see you guys suffer. I know this isn't you. I know this isn't, you know, who you are. You're so much more than this, and it hurts to see you like this, and that's why, you know, I get up every day and bring you to the clinic. That's why I have you right here for support and everything, and do everything that I can to help you without enabling you. It's really hard. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say? I don't know if anybody in here has any questions for you, but what do you have to say about to anybody
Well,
that suffering and
I
might
guess.
need help?
Well, I guess I could. I mean, I could say the typical platitudes that you hear all the time. If you're an addict, a true addict, you've heard them all a dozen times before. But as far as those who love somebody who's an addict, I can tell you that it doesn't mean that you're not enough. They're not choosing the drugs over you or something else. And you got to remember that it is a disease. So, in large part, they can't help a lot of it. Now, there is an element there of personal choice and so on, of course. We have to take responsibility for our own actions. But they didn't choose this. They wouldn't choose. I mean, there are people that if I saw them face to face, someone would have to stop me from taking their life. But I wouldn't wish this on them. It's the worst thing that can happen to anybody. And if you love somebody who's an addict, get familiar with it and understand what it means when they say, it's a disease, because there are times where you just don't possess the ability to say no. There are times where you will choose to go use over something, and you don't want to choose that, but you have to. You'll do things that you never thought you ever would, and not even realize it until afterward, because you have that drive so deep in your brain. Just it's like when you're thirsty, you take a sip from that water bottle, you don't think about it because it's such a innate drive, a basic a baser instinct. It's your lizard brain. Well, on your priority list, addiction puts that drug above food, shelter, and sex. That's pretty intense. You know, like you said, this isn't who I am. I don't know who I am. I haven't been sober since I was 14. So I've never met me. Uh, but I can tell you that the people who truly love me and are in my life see enough glimpses of the real me that they at least know who I am.
I
But
didn't think this was going to be as hard as it is to hear all of this. Like, I'm tearing up.
I didn't want to get on and tell you guys about like all the terrible things I've done and do the whole shock and awe thing because I feel like it kind of glorifies everything. And because, oh, I still got to see you at, Thanksgiving and stuff. But when it's come down to it, it's the hardest, nastiest thing I've ever had to deal with.
And so you've really lost pretty much all your family. Um,
My sister hasn't spoken to me in 4 or 5 years. My parents kicked me out, and they talk to me every once in a while, but just make sure I'm still alive and such. Not really the relationship that we had, and I was really close with my family growing up, like really really close. Um, but and don't think that I was some jackwagon out there, stealing from my sister and stealing from my parents and going and wrecking cars because I was all drunk and high, and I wasn't terrorizing them or anything, but
well, I
it's not
can
easy
say that
to let
I can trust you. You have not stolen from me that I know of. I can trust you giving you money to go run to the store, to the Circle K or whatever, get ice cream, candy. You know what I mean? Like whatever, lottery tickets. I've given you money before and you've never stolen from me. So I don't know why you would steal from anybody else.
that's just it is and I know this is going to sound like rationalization to a lot of people, but I must say that in our society there is a large element of, well, being a druggie is supposed to ruin your life, so people make sure that happens and ruin it for you. uh, they don't wait for you to get high and miss work. They just fire you because you're a druggie, or the things like that. Your life's supposed to be in shambles. See, watch. Um, when no one knew that I was a heroin addict for about a 13-year period straight consecutively, 15 years, somewhere around there. No one knew I was a heroin addict. I was negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts in robotics corporations, executive restrooms. I was shooting up while before signing the contract. And no one knew. No one was the wiser. But the second they knew, they decided that my life should be falling apart. So it was falling apart all of a sudden.
And then it just fell apart.
Oh yeah.
And then you are present day. This is what you are.
Yep.
But you are going to start the program. You are trying to get into housing for homeless people. Is that right? Is that what the county's doing? Helping the homeless people get into housing. What's it called?
They were, but it's like it's very full right now. Um, and now, especially with the winter coming or the weather changing, there's not going to be as many people losing their housing either. But there's a few different programs. In fact, they just started a new program that is targeted after giving jobs to the homeless, so that they can house themselves. Um, and so I'm
Yeah, I
looking
sent
at
you that article for you to look into.
yeah, yeah, and you know, shoot, going from making $52 an hour to literally getting laughed out of the lobby at a minimum wage job is a hell of a reality check. But I'd just be grateful for a job.
You're getting there. Stop picking your face.
How did you know I was? What the? How could you tell?
I meant in general, Carlos. I
Oh,
didn't know you were legit doing it right now. That's gross. Every single time I see him and he's picking his face, I'm like, stop, stop it. He had a big old freaking, what was it infected? What was it? Some sore right here, whatever, from picking on your damn face. It was so disgusting.
it got abnormally large. Yes.
It got abnormally large.
Well, I almost lost my finger at one point from injecting. I got flesh-eating bacteria in my middle finger on my left hand.
You injected you wait into the finger right here? In between your fingers or in your finger?
Well, no, there's veins that go over the top of your fingers and in between your knuckles that are really good and easy to hit.
Okay, stop. We're not going there.
And
We're
so
not
I
telling
was
people how
shooting
to
there, and it got infected, and I kept doing it, and it got more infected. And they said if I had gone to the hospital 12 hours later, they would have had to take my finger off. And little old me was sitting there in the bathroom in the hospital waiting for surgery, shooting up right into that knuckle. I told my parents I shut my hand in a car door and it got infected, and they believed it. So did the work, my job.
Yeah, they believe a lot of things that you tell them, unfortunately.
Yeah. Especially if they
Well,
want to believe it.
I don't guess anyone has any questions for you. Is the one last thing that you would like to say before we end? Because it's almost been an hour. But before, while you think of that, I just want to say today's the 7th. It is 4 months today that I quit smoking cigarettes, Carlos.
Oh,
I
congratulations.
didn't even realize that this was on the
That is huge. I know people that have 20, 30 years of sobriety off of heroin or meth or alcohol, and they say, oh, but I can't quit smoking. They say
and I
that
did both.
that's the beast. So good for you.
I did
Stay
both.
strong.
I just smoke THC. It's legal here. It's recreation. After I finish this live, that's where I'm headed, to the dispensary. Um, but I quit meth and I quit smoking cigarettes. It's possible. It is possible, Carlos.
Yes, it is.
And you're gonna get sober one day at a time, both of you. Rachel has a job now, so she's doing good, and you guys are going in the right direction. And as long as you continue to do good and to help yourself, Mom and I is always going to be here for you and for Rachel, and just keep doing the right things to get to where you have to go, and then hopefully pretty soon we'll be doing another interview with you about you being sober.
Woohoo!
Everyone is so proud of you for doing the right thing and trying to get the help that you need. And I am too, for especially signing up for this program.
We don't have to.
Because like everyone said, and like Russell Brand said earlier, and it was for me too, especially for cigarettes and for the other stuff. No matter how much you want someone to get sober, you cannot help them get sober until they're ready to get sober.
Yeah.
And that's a
All you're gonna do is push them away and push them deeper into it. Usually.
yeah. So I want to thank everyone for coming in and supporting me and for listening to Carlos's journey of his addiction. And everyone, please say a prayer for him and for his wife, Rachel, that everything goes good and these programs work and that they can get back onto the road to where they were before, making $100,000 a year, because that sucks. It really does suck, but it is what it is. And if you're, you know, true about becoming sober, then you can do it as long as you put your mind to it, just like I did with the meth and the cigarettes. It's, you know, all you got to do is put your mind to it. And once you're ready to do it, you'll do it. So I just want to thank Carlos for being here and taking his time out a whole hour for being on my panel with me. Thank you so much. You must love your cousin so much.
Yeah,
Um,
she's all right.
all right, Carlos. Press leave at the bottom and it'll kick you
You
out.
got it.
All right, bye. Thanks. Thanks
Bye.
everybody for being here. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Have a great rest of your night. And again, thanks for being here, guys.